First story. My younger son broke my rule, for I grounded my entitled older son and cancelled his camping trip because my younger one picked it from him. He sulked and ran away, so I gave him a reality check and dragged him back into my house. He acted like a trustworthy person and then again betrayed me. I'm a single dad with 2 boys, Aiden 13 and Benji 10. My brother has a son too, Luca 12, and our kids are pretty close, especially Aiden and Luca, who've become joined at the hip over the past year. I'll admit up front, I run a tight ship in my house. I expect basic respect and consistency. If I'm speaking, you will listen. Aiden's been tough lately. Puberty hit him like a freight train this year. He was always a mellow kid into Lego, reading, and being the big brother Benji looked up to. But ever since he started middle school, it's like he's trying out a new identity every month. He'll be chill one week, and the next he's acting like I'm ruining his life because I asked him to shower or stop gaming at midnight. I try to pick my battles. I really do. I've let some stuff slide because I get it, teenage hormones, social pressure, etc. But there are lines I won't let anyone cross. One of those is walking away mid-conversation. That's always been a trigger for me. It's dismissive and disrespectful, and I didn't tolerate it from Aiden, even before he hit 13. Here's where Luca comes in. He's my brother's only kid and has always been kind of soft. Sensitive, dramatic, cries when he gets called out, that kind of thing. My brother, in my opinion, tiptoes around him. He lets him mouth off, ignores him, and literally turns his back mid-conversation. Luca pulled that on me once last Thanksgiving, and I told him directly, if you do that again while I'm speaking, you won't be welcome in this house. My brother gave me grief for scaring him, but I didn't back down. I don't care if it's your feelings or not, basic respect isn't negotiable. Fast forward to last week. Aiden was supposed to take out the trash, do his laundry, and hop in the shower before dinner. He did none of it. I told him calmly, you didn't do your responsibilities today. I'm not arguing. You can do it now, or I take your iPhone for the week. He cuts me off mid-sentence, says something under his breath, then walks away and shuts his bedroom door. Nope. Not in this house. I followed him in, took the phone, and told him straight. This attitude isn't just you being a teenager. You're being rude, and if you keep acting like this, you'll lose more than just your phone. He said nothing, just stared at the wall like I didn't exist. This wasn't the first time. 2 weeks ago, he snapped at Benji for asking him to play Minecraft. Last month, he cursed at his mum over text because she wouldn't send him money for some Steam game. I've been tracking these behaviors, and there's a pattern. Every time he spends a weekend with Luca, he comes back more entitled and more reactive. Now here's the part that really pissed me off. A few days after that incident with Aiden, I had a simple conversation with Benji. I told him, before you go to your friend's house, clean your room and put on deodorant. That's it. Nothing intense. Normally, Benji would smile, hug me, and say, okay, Dad. That day, he rolls his eyes and snaps. I know, I was going to do it. Why do you always remind me? He turned around and walked off while I was talking. My jaw dropped. Benji. The same kid who still cuddles with me on the couch and brings me drawings of me and him as superheroes. No way. I walked into his room, sat him down, and told him point blank, you're grounded this weekend. You don't walk away from me while I'm talking. That's not how we handle things here. He cried and said it wasn't fair. I told him, it's not just about you. You're starting to mimic your brother, and I'm not going to wait around while my house turns into a teenage rebellion center. I let him cool off, then went to Aiden. I said, look, you're grounded for the rest of the month. Not just for walking away, but because Benji is picking this up from you. You want to act like Luca? Then you can enjoy the same consequences I'd give him if he lived here. He broke. He actually cried, and I hadn't seen Aiden cry in almost a year. He said it wasn't fair, and that he's not responsible for Benji copying him. I said, maybe not directly, but you're his role model. You walk around pissed off all the time, ignoring basic rules. What do you think he's going to do? Now here's where things exploded. I called my brother. I told him flat out, Luca is becoming a bad influence. He's constantly rude to you, and now my kids are starting to act like him. You need to fix this. He got defensive immediately. Said I was overreacting and micromanaging everyone's parenting. I said, if your kid can't handle basic discipline without crying and turning his back, that's not my problem. But when my sons start acting like him, it becomes my problem. He told me he wasn't going to be told how to raise his son. I said, Then don't bring your son around mine. Because if he walks away from me or turns his back while I'm talking, it'll be the last time he's in my house. Then he dropped the bomb. He said maybe it's best if we keep the kids apart for a while. Which would be fine. Except he's the one who planned the big camping trip next weekend with all 3 boys. I told him straight if he wants to flake on the camping trip because he's butthurt over me calling out his parenting, then fine. But I'm not going to pretend like this isn't affecting my household. My kids don't live in a bubble. If they spend hours every weekend with a kid who gets to mouth off, walk away, and treat adults like they're optional, then I'll see the effects. And I am. I saw it with Aiden. Now I'm seeing it with Benji. I'm not going to wait around and hope it just stops. After that call, my brother stopped replying to texts. I sent one more saying, if you're backing out of this trip, tell me now so I can make other plans for my kids. Nothing. Total silence. Meanwhile, Aiden moped around for a day and then went into full sulk mode. I didn't feed into it. He lost his phone, Xbox access, and weekend plans until the end of the month. I made it clear that disrespect has real consequences, and if he wants to earn his privileges back, it starts with fixing his tone and stopping the passive-aggressive crap. Benji's been quieter since his grounding, but honestly, I think it shook him the right way. He's not used to being in trouble. I sat him down and explained it again. You're not in trouble for being upset. You're in trouble for being disrespectful. You don't copy someone's bad attitude just because they're older. He nodded. Didn't cry this time. We played Monopoly that night. I think it's sinking in. Now let me be clear, I'm not on some power trip. I'm not obsessed with controlling every emotion in my house. But walking away mid-conversation is something I will not tolerate, period. It's not about ego. It's about the precedent it sets. If I ask you to take responsibility and your response is to shut down or shut a door, that tells me you're not ready for freedom. You're not ready for choices. Some people might say I'm being too strict, that I should connect more with Aiden or let Benji express himself. I'm not raising roommates. I'm raising men. And part of being a man is learning how to face a conversation even when you don't want to. Especially when you don't want to. As for Luca, I don't care how emotional he is. I've seen him straight up ignore my brother while he's talking. He did it at a family BBQ in July. My brother told him to put his phone away and help bring stuff in from the car. Luca rolled his eyes, turned away, and said, I'm busy. Then just walked off. My brother laughed it off and said, he's just tired. Tired, my arse. That's learned behavior. That's what happens when there's no accountability. And now my kids are starting to mirror it. I cut that off the second I saw it. And what pisses me off the most is this. I told my brother months ago this was going to be a problem. I said, if you don't start checking that attitude now, it's going to spread. He said I was being paranoid. That kids are just moody sometimes. Now here we are, and he's silent when it actually affects someone else's household. So no, I'm not walking back my decision. Aiden is grounded for the month. Benji's grounded for the weekend. Luca is not welcome to stay over at my house until I see a serious change in how he talks to adults, not just me, but his own dad. And if my brother wants to keep pouting and kill the camping trip, that's on him. You don't get to play cool dad and dump the consequences on everyone else. If your parenting stops at the door of your own house, then you've failed. I'm not apologizing for running my house with structure. So Reddit, Ada? Comments. Comment 1. Look, I worked with troubled teens for over a decade. The number one thing that screws up young kids, inconsistency. You don't get to act like your kid's best friend one day and their parent the next. So I respect the hell out of your consistency. You set a line and held it. That matters. That said, you're projecting too much onto Luca. Yeah, maybe the kid's disrespectful, but it's not his job to be a role model in your house. That's Aiden's job. If Aiden is so easily influenced that a weekend with his cousin turns him into a door-slamming zombie, then your problem isn't Luca. It's that your son hasn't internalized your expectations yet. And maybe he's resisting because you only give him structure without connection. You say you're not trying to control every emotion, but you're not showing a lot of emotional bandwidth either. You're not the arsehole for grounding them. That's your house, your rules. But calling up your brother and demanding he punish his kid on your terms, that's where you overstep. Kids aren't remote controlled. And your brother's going to tell you to get bent every time you come at him like you're the dad of all 3 boys. Comment 2. YTA. Aiden's behavior is Aiden's responsibility. Benji's behavior is Benji's. You can't just lump them together and slap a punishment on one kid because his little brother copied his attitude. That's not discipline, that's lazy parenting. All it does is breed resentment. You're blaming Aiden for something that Benji did, and then turning around and blaming Luca for both of them. Are you serious? Take some accountability. You clearly baby Benji and don't want to admit he can screw up too, so it's easier to say, oh, he's just mimicking Aiden and Luca. The wildest part. You called your brother demanding he punish his kid for your household issues. What kind of delusional parenting pyramid are you running? If you keep this up, none of these boys will talk to you when they're older. You're burning every bridge on the way down, including your brother's. Fix it before you end up alone in the control tower you built for yourself. Comment 3. YTA and honestly kind of intense to a worrying degree. You're trying to run your household like a boot camp, and now you want your brother to run his house the same way. That's insane. Aiden's being a teenager. Of course he's testing limits, that's what kids do. But you're treating every disagreement like a personal insult, and then grounding him like he spat in your face. You can set rule, sure. But you're not just shutting down bad behavior, you're shutting down any behavior that doesn't look exactly the way you like it. There's no room for emotions, disagreements, or even learning. Just punishment. And the second your younger kid steps out of line, you ground the older one and try to get your brother to punish his kid. Luca isn't your problem. Your need to dominate every interaction is. You're driving wedges between everyone, your kids, your brother, even yourself. Pull back, man. You're going to regret this long term. Update. A lot has happened since my last post. To be clear, I didn't come here to get validation or sympathy. I parent the way I do because it works. And the people who actually live in my house, my sons, are doing better for it. But yeah, things escalated. Right after the whole incident with grounding Aiden and Benji, my brother cut off communication. No reply to texts. Nothing. Then a few days later, I get a group text meant for other family members, not even directly to me, where he casually drops that the camping trip is off indefinitely, and that family time isn't healthy for everyone right now. Didn't say my name, but the implication was obvious. And the icing? My mum texted me right after, saying she was disappointed and asking if I could reach out and fix this. I set rules in my home. I enforced them. I said Luca wasn't welcome until he showed me basic courtesy, not exactly an impossible bar. My brother couldn't handle being called out. That's on him. Then the next blow came. Aiden ran off. He was supposed to be at home doing some school project with Benji. I stepped out to grab groceries, and when I got back, he was gone. Left a note, a literal paper note, saying he was staying with his mom until I learned to stop punishing him for everything. I'll explain our custody setup, because people always assume the worst when a kid runs to the other parent. Aiden and Benji live with me because their mom travels constantly for work. We agreed years ago that the boys needed consistency. She's based in another state half the time, working in entertainment, so Monday to Friday parenting was never going to be her role. That was court approved and mutually agreed upon. She gets them over major breaks and some long weekends, but the day-to-day, that's all me. She was never against it. She just knew her lifestyle wasn't suited to raising school-age boys full-time. So for Aiden to run off like that? It wasn't just dramatic, it was logistically insane. He had to get a ride from one of her assistants because she wasn't even home when he called her. I find that out when she finally texts me 2 days later, not to talk things out, but to tell me he needs space. I called her and said, "You're undermining everything we agreed on. You're not even there, and now he's what? Sitting in a guest room with some stranger watching him," she said. "At least he feels safe." Safe from what? From a curfew. From being held responsible when he ignores me mid-sentence. I got my lawyer involved. And no, not to sue anybody or drag her to court. Just to clarify our custody agreement. I didn't want a war. I just wanted my son back in the environment where he actually goes to school and has a routine. We made arrangements. I flew out. I didn't drag him by the arm. I sat him down and told him, "You made your point. You ran off. You wanted me to see that you're mad. Fine. But you live with me, not because I force you, but because that's where your life is, and we're not going to play this game every time you don't like a rule." He agreed to come home. When we got back, I noticed something different. He wasn't sulking. He wasn't slamming doors. In fact, he was hanging out with Benji more, helping him with homework, offering to cook eggs in the morning, the whole thing. And for the first time in a while, Benji seemed calm again. Not scared, not clingy, just balanced. And when I say clingy, I mean it. I found out from his teacher that he'd been getting overly attached to her in class, constantly asking to stay behind during recess, and asking if she was mad at him. That's not normal. That's a kid spiraling because he doesn't know where he stands. So yes, I was firm with Benji. And no, I don't feel guilty for pulling the reins back. The emotional mess that kid was becoming is exactly why I run my house the way I do. Since Aiden came back and started stepping up, Benji's been thriving. That's not coincidence. But apparently, outsiders think they know better. 2 days after Aiden comes home, I get pulled into a meeting at his school. Guidance counselor, vice principal, and surprise my brother. I guess Luca went home whining about how mean my uncle is and how I yell at everyone for nothing. So they called some kind of informal intervention. I sat in that room and listened to a bunch of half-baked opinions from people who see my kid for 45 minutes a day. The counselor suggested maybe Aiden feels stifled. I asked her directly, "Did Aiden say that? Or are you assuming based on Luca's story?" She couldn't answer. Then my brother, now suddenly brave with an audience, says maybe my sons would benefit from a more open parenting style. I looked him dead in the eye and said, "They're finally thriving. They've got discipline and clarity, and they're closer than ever. What exactly would I change?" Silence. I left that meeting more certain than ever. People love to talk about parenting until they actually have to do it. It's always "you're too harsh" or "kids need room" until their own kid is failing classes, acting out, or blowing up their marriage. My boys are sticking together now. Aiden's actually teaching Benji good habits. We sit down for dinner. We talk about their day. They go to bed at a decent time. I don't give a damn what anyone outside the front door thinks. So yeah, I lost respect for my brother. That part's done. You don't go behind a family's back and try to backdoor your way into parenting someone else's kids. My boys are home. They're improving. That's the result that matters. Comments. Comment 1. You sound proud that your kids are finally falling in line. But honestly, reading this update makes me sad. Not because you're strict, that's your business, but because it feels like you've lost sight of why kids push back in the first place. Aiden literally fled to another state to get away from you. And instead of asking what made him feel cornered enough to do that, you brought him back like a package and acted like the win was him making eggs for his little brother. You're so focused on results that you're missing the warning signs. Benji clinging to his teacher like she's his emotional lifeline. That's not normal. That's a kid looking for security, not another lecture. Kids can act obedient and still be emotionally wrecked. You don't measure success by eye contact and homework completion alone. Your brother was probably wrong to ambush you at the school meeting. I'll give you that. But the fact that multiple adults are flagging the same patterns, and you keep calling them outsiders, makes it feel like you've built a wall around your ego. Just consider that being in control doesn't always equal being right. Comment 2. Look, I've raised 3 boys. 2 of them gave me hell during the middle school years. One of them walked out and lived with his mum for a while too. So I'm not here to say you screwed everything up. I get the instinct to lock things down when stuff starts spiraling. And honestly, Aiden coming back, helping his brother, and settling in. That is a win. Doesn't matter what some armchair therapists think. Results do matter, and sometimes you have to take the heat to make things click into place. That said, you need to stop blaming your brother like he's the root of all evil. His parenting is soft, sure. But his kid isn't the reason your son ran away or your younger one clings to adults. Those are reactions to your household, not just outside influences. Maybe Lucas just a mirror for behaviors you don't like because they reflect the stuff you're trying to suppress in your own kids. Be proud of what you fixed. But don't double down so hard that you miss the next red flag. Trust me, teenage peace is always temporary. Comment 3. I'm not sure what's more off-putting, the fact that your son ran away and your takeaway was basically, he made a scene but came back, or that you walked into a school meeting and told professionals they don't know what they're talking about because you're raising real men. You talk like a drill sergeant, but your whole house is showing symptoms of emotional exhaustion. You say Benji is doing better, but he was emotionally spiraling enough to treat his teacher like a lifeline. That's not balanced. That's survival behavior. Aiden came back cool, but you didn't hear him. You handled him. And your brother. Maybe he didn't handle things well, but you nuked that relationship the second you told him how to raise his kid. You act like you're the only one in the arena, but everyone else is just trying to not get burned by your flamethrower. Honestly, man, you can win every battle in your house, but you're setting yourself up to lose the war when these boys are old enough to leave for good. Update. I'm writing this after months of silence because my entire life fell apart. And honestly, I don't even know where to start. You know how in my last update I said the boys were finally getting along, Aiden was stepping up, Benji was calming down, and the house was feeling normal. Yeah, well, that was all bullshit. Not because the boys weren't acting that way, They were. But I didn't know it was all rehearsed. My ex coached them. She had been planning for months to get them out of my house and into hers. The woman who spent years barely around, who openly admitted she wasn't built for day-to-day parenting, suddenly decided she wanted to be mother of the year at 40. I later found out she was tired of people in her social circle whispering about her being an absentee mom, and she didn't like that I had become the primary parent. So instead of talking to me, she decided to weaponize the kids and the system. Everything started unraveling when Aiden got caught skipping class. He was found sitting behind the gym with 2 other kids, vaping and ditching math. The school called me first. I showed up, pissed but calm. But Aiden had a whole different response. He exploded. He shouted that he skipped because he couldn't handle living with me, that I watch everything he does, and that he would rather fail school than go home. I was blindsided. None of this had come out at home. He'd been polite, helping Benji, doing homework, everything I thought we were rebuilding. The school counselor pulled me into her office and said Aiden told her he's scared of me, that I make him feel trapped. She didn't even try to hide the judgment in her face. I denied it, obviously, because nothing they described matched what actually went on in my house. But Aiden just sat there staring at the floor, refusing to speak. I told the counselor that he could skip class because he was copying his cousin Luca, who had done the same thing last year. My brother apparently told the school counselor that. But instead of backing me up, my brother acted like he didn't know what I was talking about. I shouldn't have been surprised. The man has a spine made of wet cardboard. A week later, CPS showed up at my door. Apparently, Benji had told his teacher he walks on eggshells at home. That he tries really hard to be perfect so dad isn't disappointed. And then the kicker. He said sometimes he wished he lived somewhere less tense. I swear to God. When CPS repeated those words, my stomach flipped. Not because they were true, but because that exact phrasing was something my ex had said to me years ago, when she was trying to guilt-trip me during our separation. It wasn't Benji's language. It was hers. Word for word. I asked CPS who made the report. They wouldn't tell me, but I knew, obviously. And later it was confirmed she went to them saying I intimidate the boys. A vague, stretchy accusation perfect for someone who wants to stir the pot and then play innocent. Everything spiraled from there. My ex filed for custody modification. She suddenly wanted 50/50ths or full custody, depending on which lawyer letter you read. Her argument. The boys don't feel emotionally safe with me. The same boys who ate dinner with me every night, played games with me, went on hikes with me, hugged me, and laughed with me. The same boys who, until a month earlier, were doing chores and cracking jokes in the kitchen. Then I found out the truth. The boys admitted not to me, but to my sister that their mum told them to just keep it together a little longer, meaning act polite, listen, help around the house, and be good brothers so they could get out of dad's custody without trouble. She told them CPS won't believe us if you act wild, and that they have to work together. So they did. They acted like the ideal siblings, responsible, polite, and supportive. It was all coordinated. When my sister told me, I felt sick. Not angry sick. Because that meant Aiden's apology, his early breakfasts, the way he helped Benji with homework. None of it was real. It was rehearsed. A team effort. My boys are working together, but not for the reason I taught them. Not to be accountable, not to look out for each other, not to be good men. They did it to get away from me. The custody hearing was ugly. My brother testified for my ex. Of course he did. My ex cried on the stand. My kids sat there stiff and silent. CPS didn't find any abuse, but they said emotional tension exists in the home. Which, sure, when your ex weaponizes your children, tension tends to pop up. I didn't lose custody completely, but it got reduced so sharply that it might as well be. Benji now lives with her half the time. Aiden chose to stay there full time, for now, and the court allowed it because of his age. The kid who used to ask me to tuck him in now barely answers my texts. The kid I grounded for walking away now won't even face me in court hallways. My ex is smug as hell. Pretends she didn't want things to escalate. Claims she just wanted the boys to feel heard. She's a manipulative arsehole who used the kids to fix her reputation. I'm not shy about saying it. She couldn't handle being seen as the fun visitor mom anymore, so she rewrote the narrative and made me the problem. My brother? Spineless. Picked the side that caused him the least stress. He knows damn well what she did, but he stands there nodding like a bobblehead because conflict makes him sweat. And me. I hate everything going on in my life right now. But I still love those boys. I always will. I didn't try to raise soldiers. I didn't try to break them. I tried to raise kids who had each other's backs, who didn't leave each other behind, who stepped in when someone was slipping. They did learn that lesson. They stuck together. They coordinated. They kept each other in check. They just used it against me. And that's what hurts the most. Comments. Comment 1. I'm not going to coddle you. You helped create this mess too. You might not be manipulative like your ex, but you're rigid as hell, and your tone in both posts screams, my way or screw off. That works until your kid has another option. Then they screw off. I believe you love your sons, no question. And yeah, your ex played dirty 100%. But you treated parenting like a one-man campaign. I teach discipline. I enforce respect. Okay, cool. But where's the relationship in that? Where's the emotional safety? Where's the softness? You had 2 sons begging to be heard, and the second they showed signs of rebellion, you cracked the whip harder. That made your ex's pitch look real good to them, whether she was full of SHT or not. Also, your brother sucks. It was a complete coward move to testify against you when he knows what she's like. But the core issue here, you didn't see your kids changing until they turned on you. That's on you, too. Next time, lead with connection before correction. Comment 2. Dude, this whole story is tragic. And what's worse is you still think you were in control. You got played by everyone. Your ex used your kids. Your brother sold you out. Even your own parenting logic turned against you because you trained them to think like a unit, take accountability for each other, and stick together under pressure. They did that. Just not for you. You raised kids who don't need you. You taught them independence without emotional access. That's the real tragedy. Aiden learned how to read people. Benji learned how to perform safely. But neither of them trust you. That's not a manipulation issue. That's a connection issue. They were loyal to each other, not to you, because you didn't give them an emotional reason to be loyal to you. And your ex? She didn't win. She just put a clock on how long she can fake being the emotionally available one. When that act breaks, and it will, the kids won't know who to run to because both homes feel like traps. You better find a way to rebuild without pride. That's your only way back in. Second story. I paid for my cruise trip after my so-called friend said she went bankrupt. It's been 17 months. She hasn't paid me a dime, but buys every Lego set and goes to Comic Cons, NHL games, and concerts. So I asked her to pay my money, and she called me toxic and delusional and said I'd changed. I sued her in small claims court. This just happened this last month, and while I have other friends and family backing me, what my friend said to me is eating at me. And I keep thinking I am the a-hole, so I think maybe an outside point of view is what I need. Note: throwaway accounts since they're on here, and I am second guessing, even asking real names have been changed. This is over a cruise that I fronted the cash for. IF 34 and my friend, Kim F 33 booked the cruise in August 2023. By April 2024 they had finished paying off the initial cost, and then wanted to add more excursions, drink packages, etc. And the total of all that came to just over $450. A few weeks before the cruise, Kim told me they started the steps to go through bankruptcy. And I said I can easily cancel the trip since we have travel insurance and can get all our money back. Their spouse M, 37, and Kim told me not to worry and to just book the additional things and keep the trip. The cruise was in May 2024. Afterwards, Kim started explaining how hard their bills were, and they couldn't afford anything. I understood since I've been there and said she can just do payments of whatever they can afford. During the next 17 months, May 2024 to October 2025, they only paid me 2 times $50 each. She continued to complain they couldn't afford anything, nor pay me back even though she was buying and doing a lot. She bought over $300 of Lego sets and $100 of video games and spent over $1,000 at a Comic Con, a premium pass over $200, autographs of 3 celebrities over $400, and photo ops with 2 celebrities over $400, plus Artist Alley purchases and food at the con since she didn't want to bring her own. Went to a few NHL games, attended a few concerts, and did a few other things. Note: they paid for all of this. And it wasn't gifts. I was with her when she made over half these purchases. So a few weeks ago Kim posted she just got tickets again to a concert next summer. I was curious and went on and saw the cheapest tickets available were just over $300 each. She got tickets for her and her spouse. So I messaged Kim asking if she was able to pay me back, and she said she couldn't and was doing payments for the concert tickets. That's when I decided I had had enough and needed to get everything off my chest. I brought up to her that I have been offering payments as well, and that she said they couldn't afford it. I went on to say I felt like she was taking advantage of me. Kim immediately blew up at me, saying I was guilt-tripping her. She went on to say if I wanted it that bad, she'd pay me off, but they won't be able to buy gas or food the next few months. When I tried explaining why I felt the way I did, and that they had 3 incomes in their household, her husband, and her father, when I had only mine, and pointed out a lot of the stuff she bought, and I said I didn't like how she was gaslighting me, she immediately started saying I was toxic and delusional, and that I valued money over friendship. In the end, I told her if they're hurting that bad, she can keep the money, and I blocked her on all social media, frustrated and needing a break. Seeing I blocked her, she blew up again and said I changed and improving. I don't care about people struggling, and I am in the wrong for only caring about money over our 20+ years of friendship. So now I am questioning if I was really the a-hole or not. Side note: no, this wasn't just over the money either. I always felt awkward around her because of some of the sketchy/questionable things she's done. But the money was the final straw, I guess. Comments. Comment 1. OP, take her to small claims court, get the money, and end this toxic friendship. OP, I don't know if small claims court is worth the leftover $350-ish she owes me. Been told it could be a few $100s to take someone to court. Comment 2. You just pay the filing fee. It is really simple to look up how much it costs for your canticity. OP, it seems to be a lot cheaper than I heard from others who did it. Definitely will be looking into this more. Thank you. Comment 3. NTA, but I think you've learned a valuable lesson here. When do you loan money? You need a contract. Even with friends, even with family. She is and has been taking advantage of you, so do not lend her money again, even if you reconcile the friendship. From here on out, be very careful about lending money. OP, thought I could trust her, especially since she paid the initial portion of the trip back. But after 17 months, it got frustrating waiting for the last bit. So I finally said something. Comment 4. When she said you had changed and didn't care enough about people, that was gaslighting because she wants to guilt you into letting it go so she can continue to spend money on things she wants. You did change. You stopped being a patsy and set boundaries. And you did this because she was mowing you down. And actually, you are showing more care for others by taking care of yourself emotionally. An emotionally healthy person finds more bandwidth towards helping others. Reflect on this, please. Going forward, vow to continue to have healthy boundaries in all of your social interactions. When a person loses their SHT because you have set a boundary and will not let them treat you badly, that's the tell. They value the money more than they value your friendship. In fact, they value it so much more that they are perfectly going to assault you, hate on you, gaslight you, and dump you. She was projecting her own behavior onto you so hard. I'm so sorry this happened to you. And if this answer seemed a bit bossy or arrogant, I don't mean it to be at all. I think you are a brave person. His life is going to continue to get better because you're no longer like a lot of people to make it worse. OP. Yeah, looking back on everything that's happened in our past, she was definitely using me in more ways than one. You're right, I did change. But for the better. I have a new backbone I never had before. Update. So this update came a lot faster than I thought. I do want to thank everyone who gave their suggestions to take my now ex-friend to small claims court. And, of course, end her friendship. Anyways, after multiple people saying I need to take her to court, I decided to try once more to get my money back. I texted her and said I will take her to small claims court if I must. But it isn't right that she promised to pay me back and hasn't. Of course, she started in on the sob story, saying she and her husband will starve and may lose the house if she pays me back. Then got mad when I told her she should just sell her concert tickets she just bought or cancel her Disneyland trip. I found out from a mutual friend they were planning. She didn't reply for a while, and then ended up saying that unlike me, she is a true friend, and at least doesn't let money corrupt her and make her an evil person like I became. But she sent the remaining balance via Venmo. So I got my money back. All $373 she owed was left. I didn't reply, just wanting to be done with her, but got one more long text saying I shouldn't be gaslighting and berating her for wanting to do a childhood dream of hers going to the concert, and that I even have spent money on things I wanted, so she should be able to as well. That her tip money is for fun and not bills, so I have no right in telling her how to spend her tip money. She's glad my true self is showing, and that she needs supportive friends and not those who want her to suffer. After that text, I blocked her on everything. I was done. Thank you, Reddit, for helping me out with this situation. Some of the stuff she said to me is still making me feel like a bad person, But I will say once I completely blocked her, I felt like a weight was lifted off my shoulders. And now that she paid me my money back, I am going to go spend it on something to help me distress lol. Comments. Comment 1. Given the behavior you described in your original post, it's easy to see why she was at risk of bankruptcy. Good grief. OP. Yeah. Well, she went through with it. She was talking to a bankruptcy lawyer while we were on our cruise. Though I heard her tell him once when talking on the phone to him that she doesn't have good service because she's house sitting for a friend in a bad service area. Lying to a bankruptcy lawyer really got me second guessing a lot then lol. But 17 months later, I am glad to be able to cut ties officially. Comment 2. You're better off. You don't lend my money that you can't afford to lose, but it's good that you got it back. When I was first married, my ex lent his cousin $1,000. It wasn't really money that we could afford to lose, but he did it without my knowledge. We never got the money back. But this cousin had no problem traveling to Europe twice yearly once he became successful. My ex wouldn't ask for the money, and to this day it hasn't been repaid. Glad this all worked out for you. OP. Yeah, the initial cost of the cruise was covered with travel insurance, and I told her if it wasn't paid off by the deadline to get the money back if we canceled, I would cancel it. So I am sure that's why she paid off the initial balance. But this extra money I fronted for a few excursions, and a beverage package for her didn't have as strict of a deadline. My parents even asked what would happen if she doesn't pay the extra back, and I said I guess she wasn't my friend, but she paid the other back, so she should be good. So yeah, definitely no plans on loaning to friends again. Comment 3. She said they were going to starve and lose the house, and the amount of money was $373. OP. Yeah, and I even offered her payment plans too. She even said she can do $10 a month if needed. But yeah, after 17 months, and seeing her get those concert tickets, I kind of lost it and went off on her, which is where the original post came in. But yeah, all this over $373. Comment 4. Lol, that excuse is brazenly stupid. Although to be fair, if you can't eat or house yourself without a $373 loan from someone, you are almost certainly going to be homeless in the near future. So it sort of tracks. Just think, you saved her from that fate 17 times already. OP. So does that mean I should consider myself a hero for saving her from that fate so many times lol? Thanks so much for that laugh lol. Comment 5. How much did she owe? You said she paid the remaining $373. I was thinking she owes you several thousand. OP. Originally, I fronted the money for the cruise and hotel the night before over $2.5K. But when I said if I don't have it paid off by the deadline to cancel and get the money back, I would cancel our reservations, and she actually paid that off. Then I fronted an additional $473 or so for a drink package and a few excursions. She only paid $100 back in the first few months after the cruise, so it was like 14 months and had no additional payments towards the remaining balance. Thank you for watching the video. If you are interested in listening to these kinds of stories, we've got more in store for you. Simply subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share it with your friends.